One of the things that I notice from some people that come into my life, something about the dialogue on the Archons infuriates them, that I have the gall to speak my mind on such issues. And I would say that a lot of this archonic interference comes from negative people, places, and things. And if we want to walk on the spiritual path, we need to work on those things within ourselves as well as changing our environments if we're in a negative one. And what I've been dialoguing about is what it's like when you actually specifically talk about these things, the types of various types of anger that I will see in different people. And there's a reason why I need to be very careful who I associate with. And there's a reason why I moved off grid. And without getting specific, there was someone that I met recently, a few conversations here and there, and it's unfortunate when I meet people off the grid that show themselves to have explosive tempers. And in this situation, I'm explaining that the battery problem that I have that was ungrounded was actually causing massive issues with my coolant system. And when it was grounded, the problem went away. And it erupted to a situation where I'm a friggin' idiot because he's a mechanical expert. And I'm watching this build, and after a few moments I told him, I'm not putting up with this, man. And I shut my RV door and started walking away from him towards my shed. And I shut the door, and I think it popped back open, or he opened it, or I opened it, and he's still yelling, and sticks his palm in my face, a few inches away. Now, I don't know why some people think that that's okay, an okay way to communicate, especially if someone's walking away from you. And so I can note that situation down with Kyle in Taos at the Food Not Bombs place. And he was someone who I was not going to let just do a rebuild on my transmission. Instead, I got it towed out of there and done somewhere else. And it made him mad that I wasn't going to fork over money to someone that was verbally abusive. And this was during my period of traveling around trying to find community, doing the RV lifestyle in Southwest Colorado, northern New Mexico. So I went through a lot with other people, throwing their hands up in the air and getting really aggressive. And it's like it is offensive to those doing it, that it's offensive that they're acting in that way. It's as if it's considered acceptable. I pulled out the camera on Kyle, and he attacked the camera, which fortunately still works. And I'm just scratching my head at the balls on someone to attack someone with a camera who's trying to document someone else. Now, I didn't do that today to this guy. I just walked away and said, get off the property. And he did some yelling and left. That's a scary situation. That's a scary situation when it's off the grid. And it's someone that could try to cause some harm or disruption. And it's unfortunate because we want to walk a life to where we trust new people in our life, new friends, new allies, nothing wrong with that. And then the people closest to you can be the meanest. And so I don't know this person very well, and I'm not going to know him any further. And I hope he doesn't bring me any harm. But I'm noting this, and I'm podcasting this. He said, as he thrust out that palm in my face, that the Archons have me. And so either he had, because I gave him my YouTube channel, and we talked for multiple hours. During there's always the first day that you meet someone, and there's the calm personality, then it builds and it builds. And there were other examples not worth mentioning, to where it's like, you're full of sci-fi, kid. You have no idea what you're talking about. And then just a long rant. It's like a form of cruelty. So there's a certain amount of off-gridders that get a bad rap, and there are certain that are off-grid for a reason. And I've met all types, and I want to trust certain people to come visit me, but it is also so dangerous. And so I have to be very, very careful. I have to be very, very careful. And I have to be independent. This is a winter coming to where I don't see any, a real community locally. A lot of people are on their own. And there's a few get-togethers, but now I've also realized and seen clear signs of why it's important to keep to yourself in certain situations, unless you know someone really well. I'm reflecting on this anger. When I put down my foot, various situations, you're not going to yell at me like I'm an idiot and scream at me on my property or someplace. And then watching something build and build an irrational, violent behavior. There's another situation that I was going to recall, and it was at the restaurant in town, and the grid went down. The power, that is. And so the computers, which have all the food orders, for both the runner, which I was doing, as well as the cook, the guy across from me, all that went down. When it came back up, it was spitting out all these orders on the cook side, which I've seen before, meaning they'll be cooking stuff that already went out, and it'll be a completely different screen, for example, than what's on the food runner side. And I was trying to explain this to the guy cooking, and he was so amped up because of all the work, of course, and stress of having the situation go down and come up. He went from telling me to shut up to coming across the line and getting within inches of my face. So those are 3 different situations this year in which I did not react. With Kyle, with him attacking my camera, I did wrestle the camera out of his hands. And so we did go to the ground. But in no way was he beaten. In no way was he assaulted. There's a lot of, and I'm a fan of the martial arts, there's a lot of misunderstandings about me, about why I train, about a lot of martial arts in general, about the martial arts. And what you see on TV, this bloodbath, is not martial arts. There's an art aspect of it, and there's a spiritual component of it. So when I train, and even when I strike that bag hard, I'm not striking with anger. I'm releasing energy. I'm focusing my energy to one point. Archery is another way of doing this. Some people ski and they focus their energy down the hill. This is completely natural. And so the reason I mention that is because there are some misconceptions about me. And I think some people, I don't know how this person thought it was rational to stick their hand in my physical face on my property. But there is some irrational behavior out there, and I advocate restraint with a lot of these situations. I advocate restraint because some people are not aware of what they're doing, and they're not aware of the recent solar flares and how there is a direct connect with some people that are out of balance with going off the handles, going off the rails. And we see it in the news, and I've written about it for years. I don't expect people that walk into my life to think everything that I think. And with good friends, I don't even bring up certain issues or push certain issues. Unfortunately, what can happen is other people can push the issue or the button. Push the buttons. Get an argument going. And then start declaring that someone doesn't know anything at all. Just because that's really important to them. This is a form of archonic interference in human relationships. We will have control freak behavior, where you have people being attacked for having their own Gnostic or spiritual view, for wanting to just simply be left alone and share a unique perspective, how it's attacked, and how we've seen independent thinkers attacked even by other so-called independent thinkers throughout time. And there's a reason why there's benefit in immersing yourself with nature and getting away from people. Going off grid is a term we use in today's day and age. And there's also benefit in going back into the cities, and bringing that information back or having a new life experience. It's very therapeutic, and that's what I've been doing the last few years. Well, this is actually beginning a much longer cycle, and I pray for protection from all forces, known and unknown, seen and unseen. Because ultimately I want to help. I don't know why it makes some people so angry that I'm just doing what I'm doing, but I will take note of that. Continue to walk in peace, advocate restraint when we're dealing with negative people, places, and things, and try to minimize that and work on ourselves. I believe that these thousands of videos that I put out there, that a lot of them have reached the people that it's needed to reach, and there's value in that. I'm not going to listen to people in my life or on the internet or family. I stopped doing that years ago. They're going to say to me there's no value in these podcasts, in these broadcasts, in what I've chosen to do with my life. Okay. So if I've gone off grid and I've turned away from abuse from family, for example, and also been turned away from, there's no room whatsoever in my life for other people. They're going to walk in and try to cause interference. The universe also brings us angels in human form that seems to constantly counteract some of the negative experiences that we have with people. And sometimes our first impression is the right impression. And sometimes the impressions that we have of others to speak to the other side is very wrong than from the actual reality. But we may have a few things correct. So seeking a balance in our lives as we connect with people and have friendships, but also having healthy boundaries, as we awaken, and if we're truth-telling, and I believe that brings just additional issues. It doesn't mean that it breaks us. It means that there's something that we're saying that's obviously upsetting something within those people. And maybe you've experienced this as well. But I believe that we can handle a lot of things peacefully. And I think that we need to rethink certain situations where we may find ourselves in an argument and know when to end the argument, even if the other person is enraged that we're walking away and ending the argument. It is far better for it to end early than go on for minutes, heaven forbid, for hours. Because some people will actually argue back for hours. And some people straight up will fight you back once they start getting aggressive. And then, of course, there's the bullies that, will back down. But I don't advocate in this day and age getting into unnecessary fisticuffs, especially when you're dealing with people that are out of control. I'm seeing more and more that the psychology of a lot of people off the grid is very much not very different than in the grid. But when you're off the grid and you're living in remote circumstances, it can be more aggravating to have a feud ongoing and feeding on that drama, simply because it feels stronger out in nature, where the energies of nature are everywhere. And I've seen this before in Costilla County, and I never really understood it. So we should seek to have peaceful lives and resolve the conflict. And if that means living a life, where there's less people around you, then so be it. And it's really about the quality of our friendships, not the quantity. And that means a lot to me, to be where I am now, to know that I've worked really hard to get to this point, and to acknowledge to other people as well as yourself that I couldn't have done this alone. This was an act of the divine for me to find this property and for me to move forward with things. And even though I'm just getting by financially, and right now, this month, this week is very difficult because I've been taking care of the things that I need to survive. What a lot of people don't realize is how hard I've worked for this and how many years I suffered prior to this. So the idea of some people even being jealous of me, which I've actually felt that energy in person from certain people, jealous of what I'm creating for myself, or jealous of what I've achieved in a few months. After years of pain and hardship, which a lot of people just don't understand or have any compassion for. So, as we end this podcast, again, I don't meditate every day, but taking time to ground, to breathe, to recenter, come into our body, and use a visualization of our choice to start cleaning out those images, clean out that pain, grounding ourselves to the earth, and releasing all that stuff that sometimes these negative people, places, and things have on us. Releasing that energy. Grounding our energy, releasing that energy, and flushing with earth and heavenly energy from below and above. And protecting ourselves. So we have to keep our own side of the street clean and try to avoid as many negative entanglements as possible. Not to mention situations where we could create negative karma for ourselves. So take care of our morality as well as take care of our personal health. As we realize moment to moment, we are either getting sicker or we're getting healthier. And what it takes to maintain health in this world is far more involved than what some people are considering. In many cases, it's our environment. It's people, places, and things. And we should take full accountability for all of the choices that we make concerning our association with all of those and above. Alex Answer here. This has been another Archon podcast for October 28th, 2016.